Ecuador, ranked 44th in the world by FIFA, have now qualified for their 4th World Cup. They didn't actually enter qualification until the 1950 tournament, but would withdraw from qualification. It wasn't until 1962 that they began in earnest to actually try and qualify for the tournament. It would take them 40 years to do so, making it to the Far East in 2002 for Korea and Japan. When they got there, off the back of a brilliant qualifying campaign that saw them finish over the Brazilians to win a group, they would come up against Italy, Mexico, and Croatia. A couple of Christian Vieri goals would sink debutant hearts, and Mexico would prove too much for the men from Ecuador as well. Although they would face Croatia in the third game, and they would be able to drag the third place finishers from the previous tournament out with them to gain a little feather in their cap, but it would not be enough to see them through to the next round. They would qualify again 4 years later in Germany 2006 after another really strong qualifying group. However, they would face the Germans, the Costa Ricans, and the Polish. Thankfully, they wouldn't have to face Germany until the third game. They, in fact, were up against Poland to begin with. It was a brilliant game versus heavily favored opposition. 2 goals from Tenorio and Delgado would win them their first match in Gelsenkirchen. After another blinding performance against Costa Rica for the 3-0 win, they would already be into the next round and able to rest key men against the German powerhouse. Even though they would lose this game, it was still enough to see them through into the round of 16, where they drew England. A tight game would need an absolute moment of magic from the free kick spot. I'm sure many of you out there will remember this. Who else was taking free kicks for England in 2006? David Beckham steps up and smashes this one over the wall as only he could. The keeper does everything he can with a Herculean effort, only manages to get barely a touch on the ball, but it was not enough to stop it from going into the net and to stop Ecuador from crashing out. After missing out on South Africa in 2010, they scraped through a really tough qualification and into what would appear on paper to have been an easier group in the 2014 World Cup for Brazil. Now they were up against Switzerland, Honduras, and France. So everyone expected France to win this group, meaning the game between Ecuador and Switzerland would be the decider for second place. That's the magic of the World Cup, because in fact they had to play this game first. It's the pressure of the moment. It was massive right from the off. A tightly contested match would see Swiss euphoria crush Ecuadorian souls as Severovic bagged the 93rd minute winner to launch the fine chocolate makers into dreamland. Despite bouncing back with a strong performance versus Honduras and a needed 3 points, their failure to score against France would see them limp home with the nightmares of Severovic and the Swiss to follow. So once again, after skipping Russia 2018, the Ecuadorians have qualified for the tournament this time around. And as in 2006, they find themselves drawn against the hosts. And interestingly enough, the dynamic here is somewhat similar to that same group from 16 years ago. I believe the Ecuadorians will be relishing their chance to qualify for the round of 16 out of this group. They have the pleasure of playing the hosts in the most anticipated first match of the tournament. They will look to spoil the party for the whole nation and start off with a bang, because the Orange Menace of the Netherlands awaits them in the second match, followed by a tasty fixture between them and the men from Senegal for the third group match, what looks like could be a decider in this group. The Ecuadorians will hope to be channeling the spirit of top players like Carlos Tenorio and Agustin Delgado and of course, star of the 2014 team Ener Valencia in this year's tournament, and perhaps they could be a surprise for the World Cup.